Welcome to State of Affairs. I am Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio in beautiful Newark, New Jersey. We are pleased to welcome for the first time on this set Dr. Suzanne Buchanan, Executive Director, Autism New Jersey. Started in 1965.
Yes.
To do what?
Well, there were parents who were concerned that their children with autism weren't getting the services they needed, they weren't getting treatment, and this was even before there were special education laws in the country. So they banded together to offer each other support and to advocate for better services.
You know, Suzanne, I don't like using the term too often. What is the state of affairs? Well, I need to do it that way. What is the state of affairs of autism in this state and then in this nation?
Sure. You know, there's a lot of hope, but there's also an urgent call to action. So the reason for hope is that best practice research shows us that when kids with autism get early and intensive behavioral intervention at around age 2 or 3, about 30% of them can go on to be indistinguishable from their peers. They can, quote, behaviorally recover from autism.
2 to 3?
Yeah, when they start intervention that early,
okay.
Right? And so about 30% of these kids can lose their diagnosis, right? We can behaviorally recover about 30% of kids when they participate in high-quality applied behavior analytic or ABA programs. The sad part is that not a lot of kids have access to this level of care.
Because?
Right? Because it's expensive, because there are workforce development issues, and that's another part of the hope, actually. There are more graduate programs in applied behavior analysis now across the state and across the country and across the globe than ever before. And so we're seeing a lot more children have access to these early and important services, but it's simply not, we're not reaching enough children.
You know, in the programming that we've done around autism, and you know that my sister Michelle is an expert in the field, or an advocate and very committed.
Yes.
And I've tried to talk to her about this offline, and we've talked a little bit on the air as well. There is confusion as to what autism is. What is it?
So autism is a developmental disorder that affects a child or adult's brain, right? Primarily, we see problems with social interaction, social communication, and we see repetitive behaviors or a very narrow range of interests. So I'll give you a real-life example. You're in the backyard, you're playing with your 3-year-old child, and there's a loud airplane or helicopter, something going overhead, right? And most typically developing kids will look up at that plane and be a little scared or a little nervous, and they'll reference mom or dad. Right? They'll look to it, like, do you see that, right? They'll point to it, they'll make some type of sound or something, right? And that becomes a shared experience between the parent and the child, where the child is referencing the parent to see, is this situation okay? But unfortunately, many children with autism don't have that social referencing. They don't have those social skills to translate that loud sound or that unusual experience into a social experience. So they're missing out on social opportunities, and they're not able to make the most of them when other children approach them as well. So that's a big focus of intervention.
Are we getting any better, Suzanne, when it comes to societal attitudes toward children, toward people with autism? I mean, just the way we are around people, are we more accepting, more comfortable? You know where I'm going with this.
Absolutely. I started with Autism New Jersey 16 years ago, and at the time, my family members would call me and say, oh, Susie, you know, they're talking about autism on this show or that show. And about 10 years ago, they stopped calling because autism awareness was everywhere, right? But I think your question goes more towards acceptance and support. And we are seeing that. At Autism New Jersey, we have an Autism Ambassador program that's now in its 19th year. We have about 1,000 people who sign up with us to promote autism awareness in their local communities. And that translates into acceptance and support and embracing people with autism in all facets of community life.
And you cannot be a part of the PBS system and not appreciate the great work of our partners at the Children's Television Workshop and Sesame Street. They have a character that, help me on her name, folks.
Julia.
Gee, I knew you'd know.
Yeah.
Julia is just an absolutely terrific character who has autism. What has she done for all of us?
Well, I think she really
What could she do?
No, I think that she really speaks to the universality of strengths and weaknesses, right? We all have things that we excel at. We all have things that are challenging for us. And if children who are watching Sesame Street, again, these are very young children, if they can understand that being different is okay, and being different is something to be curious about and something to ask someone a question about, that it's still worthwhile to be their friend even though they're different, then that's a huge message. It's really important for every successive generation to become more and more accepting.
Public policy.
Yes.
Are there any specific public policies in this state that we should be pursuing that would actually help those dealing with autism and their families?
Well, there's been a few recent successes back, and this is going back now, gosh, 8 years, but the autism insurance mandate was passed in 2009, and that has been a game changer in terms of getting young children the access to the treatment that I talked about at the beginning of the show, right? They need high quality and intensive applied behavior analytic intervention, and yet it's expensive, understandably, because there are specialists who are providing it, yet parents couldn't afford it. And insurance was originally denying, or some could say discriminating, against children with autism with this neurological condition. Because back in the day, it was called an educational disability, or it was called habilitative, and so insurance companies didn't cover it. But we see that changing across the country now, where 45 states have autism insurance mandates for fully insured plans. The self-funded plans, we're going company by company, and then Medicaid, we still have some work to do as well. But there is a pilot program through the Medicaid system, and we're working with the state children's system of care on quality assurance for that, which is very needed. I am hopeful.
Because?
Because there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of people like myself and like you who want to promote autism awareness and acceptance. I'd like to think so.
There's energy around this, and there's a desire. You know what I'm struck by? I'm struck by how many more people either have family members with autism, know someone with autism, care about someone with autism, and therefore want to do something about it.
Exactly. Well, with a prevalence rate of 1 in 41, it's bound to affect a lot of us, right? And so I think one of the reasons for hope is that early on, you don't know what a child's prognosis is. So parents, professionals are doing everything they can to give that child the best chance in life, to teach them as many skills as possible, and to try to reduce some of the challenging behavior that comes with being so frustrated that you can't communicate or you can't adapt to your world.
Dr. Suzanne Buchanan is the executive director of an organization called Autism New Jersey, which is doing the work to help these children dealing with autism every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay with us on State of Affairs right after this. Well done.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by Jersey Central Power and Light, Summit MD Anderson Cancer Center, Wells Fargo, the New Jersey Education Association, St. Peter's University, the law firm of Gibbons PC, and by the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor.